Are you undercharging? It is so important for you to know the answer to that question. And I think a lot of people end up slapping prices that sound good and that they feel comfortable selling without putting really any thought into whether or not their pricing is going to be profitable enough. So that's what we're going to talk about in this week's episode. You are listening to the Profit and Prosper podcast, the podcast where I will teach you how to take home a six-figure paycheck from your business without having to sacrifice your life today. This episode was inspired by me putting out a new freebie, which is my sales plan and pricing tool. You can grab that at sarahhyoung.com/pricing tool. In there, I've got 5 different calculators that help you set your sales goals, calculate your pricing, map out your sales plan. But one of those tools in there is my pricing tool, which I created after working with several of my multi-7-figure clients. We were trying to troubleshoot their profitability and their cash flow and figure out which of their offers was the most profitable, which offers were not profitable, which ones they needed to get rid of or change, which ones they needed to focus on to grow. And I honestly never thought I would give that tool away for free because it's really good. It's like one of the best things. It's not the most complicated spreadsheet. It's just a really good spreadsheet, if I do say so myself. And I just had several people tell me, you should totally make that a tool for people just because it's super impactful. So I did. In that tool, there is a video that explains how to use it, but I didn't necessarily go into the why behind pricing and figuring out if you are undercharging because I wanted to make it simple and easy to use. So we're just going to include this podcast episode, I guess, with that tool. So what I want to talk about is how do you figure out if you are undercharging so that you can make a decision as a business owner as to whether you need to increase your prices or change your offers or change the way your team is structured so that you can ultimately hit the profit margins that you want. If you've been listening to this podcast or watching my YouTube for any length of time, you know I care so much more about bottom line profit than I do top line sales. I've seen so many businesses making a lot of money in sales and netting next to no money because they have an issue in a lot of cases with pricing, with their team cost, and with overpaying their team, with undercharging. It has such a significant impact on their bottom line. So first, I want to think through how most people set prices. I am not going to be able to talk about all things pricing, but it's been a hot minute. I think this topic is so important that it bears repeating. It's a good thing to think about and reevaluate on a regular basis. All right. So if we think about how most business owners set pricing, when you started your business or when you created the offer that you have, what a lot of people do is they'll just go out and look at what everybody else is doing, see what they're charging, and use that as your price or try to charge something a little bit less than. Or what a lot of people do is they go the hourly route. And so they'll try to figure out what's a fair hourly rate for what somebody would pay me to do this thing. And here's how many hours I think it's going to take me to do this thing. And so that's my price is the hours times the rate that I should be able to charge. And that's my package price, right? That is a recipe for undercharging and having profitability issues, right? There's also, of course, value-based pricing, which I'm not going to go into because there's a lot of nuances around value-based pricing. And then there's another method I see a lot of people say is just figure out, okay, what's your target goal that you want to hit on a monthly basis? How many clients do you have capacity for? Divide it out, and that's your price. And to that, I would say, okay, maybe that's a fair point as a starting point, but that still doesn't really tell me if you're undercharging. There's one thing that so many people miss when they price their offers, especially once you start having a team to help you deliver your offers. You definitely view the team cost as an expense for your business, but you don't account for the value of your time. Missing this piece, I think, is one of the things I have seen most frequently causing people to undercharge. There's a couple ways I think we can tell if you are undercharging. Number one, if you feel like you are working all the time, you can't put your laptop down, and yet you're not able to take a good bit of money home, you're probably undercharging. If you have sales calls with people and almost everybody says yes, you might have a really amazing sales call process, or you are undercharging and people recognize that, and just law of supply and demand, when the price is lower, more people are going to say yes, right? I would also say that if you haven't raised your prices in over a year, you probably need to do a price increase or at least reevaluate your pricing. The amount of inflation we've seen over the last couple of years, especially for those of you who have a team and are paying payroll costs, the cost of stuff has gone up a lot. The cost of salaries and paying your team has gone up a good bit. So if you haven't raised your prices in a while, it's time to reevaluate. But the ultimate way that I can tell if you are undercharging is to use my pricing tool. So if you go download the spreadsheet, what you're going to see in there is I ask you to input two things. One thing that I ask you to input is your target gross profit margin. So I have some explanations in there about what gross profit is. Gross profit is how much you are taking home from each of your offers after you pay for the delivery. So let's say I have a bookkeeping service and I have a bookkeeper who does the work for me. My revenue is what the client pays. My cost is my delivery cost or cost of labor is what I pay my bookkeeper. And then the net amount is gross profit. Gross profit margin is just the percentage, how much of that gross profit divided by revenue are you keeping? I did an episode called 3 Ways to Pay Yourself 100K. And in that episode, I walked through 3 different types of business models and I talked about what I would like for gross profit margins to be for each of those types of businesses. At least I think it was that one. But as a rule of thumb, for any service-based business, I would like to see at least a minimum of 50% gross profit. If you're doing any sort of strategic or higher level type of offer, especially if you got like a corporate type engagement, or maybe you're doing coaching, anything strategy, high level, high impact, or you're more likely to be using value-based pricing anyways, I would like to see a gross profit margin of upwards of 70 to 80%. So that's one thing that you need to know is how much do you want to target in terms of a gross profit percentage. It's important to understand this is not your bottom line profit because gross profit is prior to all of your business expenses. I feel like I'm putting my finance nerd hat on. It's a lot easier to see if you have the pricing tool in front of you. The other thing that I ask you for is delivery cost. And so this is where you're going to want to sit down and figure out how much time does it take your team to deliver that offer? How much do you have to pay your team to do the work? This also includes you. So if you do any of the work, then I want you to think about, okay, how much time do you spend doing that particular piece of the work? And how much would you have to pay somebody else on an hourly basis to come in and do that work? Then you want to think about if you have any other types of costs. This will be less common for service-based businesses, but if you have like a product that goes out with your service, or maybe you're an interior designer and you want to include the cost of the furniture for your project. So you've got design hours and furniture costs. You'd want to include those in there too. Or if you have any other like flat fee contractors you have to pay, include that in there too on a per offer basis. But you have to know your delivery costs. And this is one where I see a lot of people shying away from numbers. And it's so crucial for you to know the value of each of your offers after you deliver it, because this is probably the biggest driver of profitability in your business is increasing the value of each of your customers. So I'm going to know if you are undercharging if we put those numbers in and out from the tool comes a number that is way higher than what you're currently charging. Let's say as an example, I want to target a 75% gross profit margin because I know that I have a high ticket strategic offer and I want a good, healthy profit margin. And then let's say that as part of that offer in terms of like having to create the deliverables for it, maybe it costs me $500 to pay my team and for the value of my time to produce the work. So the way that the calculator works is I'm going to take the cost of delivering the offer, which is $500. It is going to divide it out to tell me that my sales price for that offer, literally just like did the calculation on my iPad over here. The price for that offer has to be $2,000. So if your price is $2,000 and it costs you $500, that means your gross profit is $1,500 or 75% of sales. I can give you so many examples of people where we've done this exercise and we've mapped out the delivery cost for their offer and their profit margin is more like 40% or 50%. And then they wonder why they have profitability and cash flow issues. And they wonder why they're feeling so burned out all the time. When I think about this, there's one particular client I have in mind. We went through and did this offer and she had never like mapped it out before. Like so many people have never sat down and thought about like, what does it actually cost me to deliver my work? So we sat down and mapped it out and we included her time and we said, okay, each of her team members, she had like 2 or 3 people who would sort of pitch in on each of her clients and then her on top of it. And we mapped it all out. It took her offer from where she was charging either $3,000 or $3,500 a month for this offer. We did the math and for her to hit the numbers that she wanted to hit, she had to increase it to $5,000 a month. What is that? Almost a 50% increase in her pricing, an increase of $1,500, $2,000 per client per month. Think about the impact that that would have on your business if you were able to increase your profitability that much just by having the right pricing. So what she ended up doing later was she stopped offering a certain offer that she had figured out was, not profitable enough, and raised the prices on everything else pretty drastically in order to increase her overall profitability, right? We need to have the information, right, as a business owner to make informed decisions so that you can grow your business, so that you can be more profitable. There's another client I'm thinking about where she wanted to descale her business. So she had grown it up to almost 2 million a year, was like, you know what, the way that this is structured, it's not working. I'm gonna scale it back, revamp my offers, and come again. So we ended up going through and mapping out. She had 5 different offers, 5 or 6. We mapped out every single one of those. It was so clear after we did this. Her offers that had a more strategic component to them were hitting very solid profit margins. And then the offers, she had 2 or 3 offers that were very heavy deliverables based, meaning there's a lot more team time involved to do the work. Her profit margins were 50% or less. Right there, we're like, okay, you're just gonna cut out these offers completely. Focus on the ones that are highly profitable, who she actually liked to do that work better anyways. Focus on those. You'll not only have less clients, but you'll have a higher level of profitability. All right, so I feel like I got a little bit nerdy today, but as with everything I do, I can't not include the money and the numbers aspect to everything. You're not gonna know if you have the right business model until you actually sit down and map it out. And I just have seen so many business owners, through no fault of their own, right, just kind of go out and embark on this journey of business ownership and not even realize that they're undercharging or over-delivering, and not even realize that they have an issue, except for they just know that the way they feel like they're constantly on what I like to call the cash flow hamster wheel. So over the next few weeks, you are going to hear me talk a lot more about sales, marketing, pricing, all specifically tied to high ticket offers. I'm excited to start exploring this theme of going high ticket with your offers, because I feel like for me, it's taking me back to the roots of where I won't say first found success in business, but where I really first saw really fast business growth, where I saw growth in me being able to take home a paycheck, where I saw a massive change in me being able to scale back in the work that I was doing, but still making money, in being able to afford hiring a team. Like, it all came down to my choice 3 years ago to go the high ticket route. So definitely stay tuned. If you have a service-based business, whether you have B2B or B2C, I think there's room for almost every type of business model to have a higher ticket offer. So definitely stay tuned for that, because we're going to be talking about all the things: who can go high ticket, what types of offers you might have, how do you actually find clients who are going to pay you more money? Let's say you do this exercise with your pricing tool and you do realize you're undercharging, and you realize, like the one client did, you need to increase your price by over $1,000. And you might be thinking, okay, great, that math is great, right? But how do I actually do that? How do I actually communicate that value to my clients and find people who are going to pay me that much? That's what we're going to talk about over the next few weeks. So definitely stay tuned. And if you want to grab the pricing tool, again, just go visit sarahhyoung.com/pricing tool and you will get it straight to your inbox.